In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the Tech Zone.
Welcome back to the Tech Zone. Paul Amadeus Lane. So happy you decided to stay with me. And if you missed the first segment, I talked about the benefits of having a smart device. And if a particular colleague of mine saw the benefits of getting a smartphone, then you have no choice not to get one, because he was the last man I thought on the earth, not earth, y'all, but earth, that I thought was going to get a smartphone. But we'll definitely check it out. All right. What time is it? CES time. Coming up in a few weeks, we'll be there at the Mecca of consumer technology. Great innovation, great devices, great news. What is going to be some of the hot topics coming out of CES? What are some of the major news, major buzz? Well, I decided to have someone who was a lot smarter than me join me and talk about what we both think is going to be some of the major news coming out of CES 2019. And I'm so happy to have a person with me right now who loves CES as much as I do. You've seen some of her reviews, read some of her reviews. I am so happy to have Sherilyn Lowe joining me on the Tech Zone from Engadget. Sherilyn, what's going on? How are you?
I am good. Are you good?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, if I was doing any better, I'd have to pinch myself. You know what I mean? Because I'll be dreaming.
It's a dreamland, yes.
You know it. And, you know, if you're like me, when CES ends, I always look forward to the next. So it's like, I can't wait to see what's going to come out. Some of the cool tech trends, the gadgets, you name it. So tell me, let's use our inner Jedi and let's talk about what do we think is going to be some of the hot topics coming out of this year's CES?
I think the thing you're going to hear the most about is 5G. You're going to hear about it everywhere. It's going to be the most hyped buzzword ever. It's already been for a while, but in 2019, 5G fever is going to reach its peak, because that's a year that everyone thinks it's really going to happen. I'll get more into that later on, but then another trend will be AI. We're going to see more advances in AI. We're going to see digital assistants spread to even more parts of our lives. So you're going to see them in cars, you're going to see them in your bathroom, you're going to see them, who knows, in your head. Never know. But assistants are going to get smarter as well. They're going to learn new skills. They're going to be in everything. We can't escape the AI are coming for us. And then if there's anything else, I feel like, you know, smart home and health tech are just going to keep developing. As we've seen in years past, there's no stopping these things from growing, and we're going to see more and more of those gadgets too.
And Sherilyn, you bring up a very good point, and we'll circle back to 5G now. I remember a few years back, Steve Koenig from CTA was talking about how we're going to cut the cord when it comes to VR and wireless things and all these great things. And now we're seeing the smart city hubs starting to pop up with 5G. What do you think is going to be the biggest, I guess, obstacle when it comes to integrating 5G? Let's talk about like in the farmland or in rural areas, so that they won't be able to experience what we experience in the big city. We think the main challenge is going to be.
The biggest challenge is infrastructure. I mean, obviously, to implement a lot of the technology that's required to make the biggest selling point of 5G happen, which is millimeter waves that are supposed to expand your throughput, your speeds, really dramatically increase all of the network speeds that you're seeing right now. Getting the infrastructure out to rural areas is going to be a huge challenge. We're not going to have as much issue in a lot of cities because carriers have already been launching their pilot networks in a lot of test cities. It is reaching out to the farmlands, like you said, that's going to be a huge problem. And with millimeter waves, because they're so short range, it's so important to get the little cell towers or the transmitters every few feet or so. I mean, I don't know fully, what the actual, requirements and specs are there, but that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of getting right. So I think that 2019 may be the year 5G happens, but it won't be the year 5G reaches the whole world or even all of America.
And, one of the things that kind of always perplexed me was that when it comes to 5G, you have other countries out there like China and other countries out there who started having the wireless infrastructure a lot longer than we have. And it's like we're behind the curve. And that always frustrates me because if you look at the tech that we have here in the United States, every home should have 5G. We should not be having VRs connected to devices. It should all be wireless right now. And it just kind of frustrates me. I don't know. Do you get frustrated with that too sometimes?
I do get frustrated. I think that there's a lot of countries that are more technologically advanced than the US. I myself, being from Singapore, which is a tiny, tiny country, I understand, the frustration of being in, seeing a place be so technologically advanced, and then coming back to the US where it feels like we should be ahead of the race, but then you're actually not. That disconnect is definitely a little frustrating. I will say, though, that there are a lot of other countries in the world where it is easier to implement such things. Again, using Singapore as an example, it's so small. It's easy to roll out changes in a matter of months. But with a country as huge as the US, with so many different laws and regulations, it gets tricky. And I understand sort of why it takes so long.
That's so true. I have a friend of mine that works over at CTA, and she talks about advocating for policy and everything, and dealing with Congress and all the municipalities. It's not as easy as I think it should be. I think we should just snap our fingers and have it done. But it's not my world. It would be nice if we did. And speaking of 5G, and you touched on it earlier too about smart homes. Right now, in my home, I have about maybe 30 devices hooked up, and you can tell that it's not as strong as it is if I have 2 devices hooked up. So 5G and smart homes. Do you think we may see a lot of smart home integration kind of slow because people are getting frustrated because of not having the robust connectivity of some of these devices? Or do you think, as in the United States here, we just love the bells and whistles and we'll just deal with all the things until 5G really just explodes?
I don't think it's going to slow until 5G really happens. So we're currently the 5G that is going to be available in the first stage is going to be for cellular devices, for phones, for hotspots, but it's going to also have an impact on other types of connected devices because of the millimeter wave capabilities. So eventually, like you said, the bells and whistles part of it will come, but that doesn't mean that people are going to stop trying to make their homes as convenient as possible. I think that you can see from Amazon making so many really affordable, aka cheap devices, right, that have Alexa controls. It is a way to get people, first of all, used to the idea of having your appliances connected to the internet. That's a good first step. And then you're gonna convince people to upgrade to 5G so that their connected devices don't ever get offline. And I think that it's an ongoing process, and I don't think that people are going to stop trying to do it just because they're waiting for 5G.
That's true, so true. And when CES, when we get there, see some of these great devices, you're probably like me. Your emails are probably inundated with, "Hey, come check this out. Hey, come check this out."
Oh boy, I cannot read my emails.
I mean, tell me about like 1,000 of them. So when it comes to picking the right product to tell your audience about, what's kind of your criteria to really inform ones out there?
My criteria is: has this been done before? Is it at all new? Is it important? Is it going to help people? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't actually help people, but that is still interesting enough to cover. But that is, I think, lower on my personal list because it's more for like the sensational value in that case. More importantly, is it going to come to market? Yeah, I mean, again, a very, very top criteria is it's newsworthy, and so has it been done before, and whether it'll leave an impact in people's lives.
And I'm glad you said that because sometimes when I go hang out at Eureka Park over at CES, that's a lot of startup companies. So we're not sure how long they're going to stay in business. So they're still trying to get capital to really bring their product into fruition. And sometimes, I kind of feel bad for them because they have a great product. But if there's not a VC out there or an angel investor to come and say, "Hey, we're gonna get behind this product," it makes it kind of really challenging for them. And that's one thing I like about CES too, is that they have different breakout sessions where startups can go and try to present their product to VCs and angel investors and try to really get off from production into to the consumers out there. And when it comes to looking at a startup company, have you ever seen a startup company out there with some innovation and you're like, this is going to change the world, and it never really came to fruition?
Wow, that's a tough one. Oh boy. I almost feel okay, I tell you what. There was one maybe a couple years ago or last year that it was a pill that you would swallow and it would detect your body's temperature, and it had all these medical implications that could help parents like keep track of their kids temperatures or something like that.
Wow.
And that I have never seen it take off afterwards. There's just a lot. That's just one example. There are so many ideas out there that sound great in theory, and they've managed to execute them to the point where they've got a product and they've brought it to CES. But then beyond that, I want to say like 80% of these ideas don't come to pass. They don't happen. They don't take the world by storm and change our lives. That's quite sad.
Yeah, it really is, because there's some innovative ideas out there that I feel that can change the world, but if they don't have the capital behind it, and that's why where we're at in the tech world, of tech things, where Kickstarter programs and ones can get funding from potential consumers out there. I think that's really like a game changer, because now if they get their product out there just to the public out there, the public may step in and be like, bam, here we go. And then a VC or an angel investor may come and be like, okay, we'll take you the other step of the way. What's your take on the way technology is now, and how ones can can get their message out there and have us as consumers save them and help them produce this product?
I think it's such a double-edged sword. I think on the one hand it's great because the usual gatekeepers, like someone like me, for instance, we get so inundated with emails like we were just talking about that we might miss that bright spark that's just sitting in our inbox. And if they had a way to go direct to consumer and be like, this is such a great idea, but no one is hearing my idea, I need your help, and those people do hear them, and it really is a great idea, that is so fantastic. But then there's so much more the potential for people getting duped into things. There have been so many Kickstarter scams. There have been Indiegogo, exploits. There's just, how about that couple that pretended that they met a homeless vet? That was a crowdfunded scam. There have been people who, in the name of art, made an app that was supposed to be adopting a baby through swiping it on one like you're on Tinder. That ended up being a scam as well in the name of art. So that to me is one of the dangers of having no filter in between the consumer and these people with ideas. But I don't know. I wonder if the pros outweigh the cons. Sometimes I think they do, but when so much money is involved, it's hard to feel completely comfortable with it.
I'm glad you said that, Sherilyn. I didn't even think about it in that light, about the different scams out there. And thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. Something, a tech that I'm kind of intrigued about is, have we reached the maturity when it comes to tablets? I remember 13 years ago, me and the late great Jim Barry from CTA, we talked about tablets, and tablets didn't take off, and then about 7 years later started taking off. Have we reached the maturity of tablets? And if so, do you think anything may come out of this CES that's going to, I guess, revitalize that market because of the phones now having the phablet kind of feature?
Do you mean, when you say maturity of tablets, you mean the death of tablets, right?
Yeah, I was trying to be nice, but yeah, you kept it 100, definitely.
Well, but that's because I literally wrote today, tablets are dead. And I wrote that, companies are struggling to still keep them alive by making them into these wannabe laptops. In the past year alone, you've had, Google, Apple, Samsung. They've been making these, the iPad Pro, the Google Pixel Slate, tablets essentially that come with a keyboard cover that could turn them into a laptop for productivity. Because here's the appeal of tablets. They're portable, they're small, they're lightweight, they're slim. I can stick it in my purse and not worry about it. But then they're not good for getting any actual work done. So all the companies are trying to find that perfect marriage between portability and productivity. It's hard. I don't think we're going to see the answer at CES, But I think in 2019, we're going to see companies continue to try to make the perfect Surface Pro rival, which seems like Microsoft is the only company that's sort of been able to do that so far. And I think that that's where tablets are headed. You'll still find the affordable 8 or 10 inch, multimedia device that you want to hand off to your kid when they're in the backseat of a car so they can watch their little videos on. But those are more or less reaching saturation, in my opinion. And really the way tablets are headed is the 2-in-1 sort of category.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And when it comes to AI, they might be in our head, might be everywhere. Are we finally going to see Sonny say, I did not kill the man like an AI? Are we going to see that at CES?
I do not know. I don't think so.
I hope not, right? We don't want that.
I don't think so. Listen, it's a battle, right? It's two developments that are scaring the hell out of me. One, AI are getting scary smart. They're very, very smart. This year we saw duplex, we saw call screening. These are all very useful tools that almost make me uncomfortable at how good they are at conveying these human-like tonal inflections in their speech. But beyond that, there's also the development of robots from companies like Boston Dynamic or Anchor or even Sony with Aibo. I mean, they've started out very innocuous, very innocent with dogs and pets and stuff like that. But Boston Dynamic, have you seen their robots?
Yeah.
They look like they're straight out of Black Mirror. And it gives me the creeps.
Yeah, it kind of scared me too, because it don't take that much to scare Black folks. So when I saw it, I was like, I'm out of here. That's all that I'm saying when it comes to that. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And then and then I look at the flip side of it, like me living with a disability, confined to a wheelchair. And I look at AI, how it can maybe enhance the life of the community that I'm a part of. But you do bring up that other side of it, like, wait a minute, what if these things go wrong? Is there a way that we can have a kill switch in the code that we're writing, or what? Are we just kind of like trial and error?
There's so much ethics involved too, right? Because if something is self-aware, are you allowed to put in a kill switch? There are questions that we have only barely begun to ask, but science fiction as a category of like stories have contended with ages now, and we still haven't really come to a conclusion. I don't think we're ever going to find an easy answer to that, but I do think that people are at least being careful. We are, we haven't even gone too far beyond the surface of what's possible with AI. We're only just starting to understand that they can basically run their own shows now. So 2019, again, it's going to be a tough year, I think, for AI and robotics. Like you said, there's so much positive that could come out of these robots, right? The dog robots that we saw from Boston Dynamic could be used to help people from, earthquake damaged buildings or from, disaster sites. They could be so helpful. My cousin also, can't walk. So I could see like a robo brace sort of a thing helping him walk. But, beyond that, there's people with bad intentions that could easily use this for evil purposes.
You're right, because I could just play it out in my mind. I'm in the bed sleep, and the AI is looking over me, and I'm like, what in the world are you doing? But I'm with you on that. Yeah. I'm with you. Sherilyn, before I let you go, is there anything else out there you'd like to articulate to the audience or talk about what we may see out of CES that's going to just blow our socks off and just mesmerize our mind?
I am having a hard time because we're going to pick this up again after CES and see who made the right prediction, right? So now I have to be on point. I'm going to say I think car tech is going to be big too, but that's something that I don't know a lot about. But I will say something about car tech. Let's keep an eye out.
Okay. I love that. And I'm thinking something that's not a device is going to be kind of undercurrent for us as journalists at CES, and like I said, not turning this into a political segment or anything, but I think the impending trade war. I think we're going to hear a lot of people.
Ooh, you are picking up on everything that I am planning to talk about on our stage.
You know what I mean? You feeling me? See, and I'm thinking we're going to be talking about that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm already like half writing an article about that. Just so you know, I've already written half of an article about what I expect to not see at CES. I think that's going to be a big deal, and I think it's going to have ramifications for the rest of the year.
I totally agree. And before I brought you on, I had Bronwyn Flores from CTA on talking
Mhm.
about the impact that the trade war might have had on Black Friday and holiday spending. And what she said was that the companies got really smart. They knew this was coming, so they bought up a lot of products, so they were still able to give the consumer a good price.
Mm.
Next year, if this doesn't get taken care of, it's going, I think it's going to blow up in everyone's face, who's in favor of it. It's going to be, it's going to hurt innovation. It's going to hurt the consumer. And, you and I are going to have a lot to write and talk about, but it's going to suck for the consumer out there.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, like you said, it's not immediate. The people are not feeling it yet, but definitely 2019 holiday season is one to watch in terms of feeling, your budget not going as far as it could have gone this year.
Absolutely. Cheryl Lynn Lowe, always enjoy reading all your reviews that you have on Engadget. I love it. And you said life, stay lit, right? Is that your catchphrase?
My life is pretty lit, TBH. Yes.
See, that's what I'm talking about. So how can everyone continue to follow you, check out some of the great reviews that you do, and catch you CES in a few weeks?
Yeah, you can follow me on my Twitter, which is twitter.com/SherlynLowe, and Engadget.com for all of my stories and all our stories.
Awesome. Cheryl Lynn, great catching up with you. I'll catch up with you at CES, and we'll catch up after too.
You too. All right. Thank you so much.
A huge shout out to Cheryl Lynn Lowe, review editor at Engadget. Make sure you check out her writings. Her reviews are stellar, folks. One of the bright minds in the tech industry. A lot smarter than I am. A lot better looking than me, too. So, hey, what we're going to do, we're going to take our break right here. We get back. We're going to touch on a subject that Cheryl Lynn and I kind of touched on, the trade war. What has been the impact so far? All this mess. Another smart individual is going to be joining me here on the Tech Zone. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the Tech Zone.